What's going on, team? It's Jake. Welcome to another episode of the Master Your Craft Study. Right off the bat, let's give our shout out for the week. This week's shout out is going to go to Derek Marie. He was actually just named the head coach at Quarles University for the Pioneers men's soccer team. Derek is getting a shout out, and I'm not going to read it aloud on the air, but he sent me a private message on Instagram that was unbelievably supportive, that offered some pretty cool perspective and some memories of a time that him and I had known each other when we were younger. And I'll probably wind up posting it on our social media at some point this week because it was something that really touched my heart and meant a lot to me, and kind of showed that there are people who care for all the time and effort I'm trying to put into this thing. So shout out to Derek Marie. You can find him at KingDZ10 on Instagram, where I messaged him, and follow along the Quarles University Pioneers this year if you want to see how Derek's soccer team is doing. So thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon, Derek. I appreciate the shout out as always. For anybody else who wants to check out different parts of the episodes or the show notes or any of the blog posts that we come out with, head on over to www.themycstudy.com, themycstudy.com. Go ahead and check it out. If you have suggestions, let me know. I create all that stuff myself, and I'm pretty much self-taught on the internet and media stuff. So any improvements I can make, or if you have any advice, please send it my way. Our guest today is Jamie Quarles. He's heading into his 11th year of coaching basketball. He's coached professional players. He's won championships on multiple fronts. He started out in Augusta, Georgia, where he grew up, and then wound up playing 4 years for the University of Augusta, which is a really well-known Division II program. He later coached there for a little while, and while he was in Augusta, was named one of the top 10 young professionals to watch for. And most recently, Jamie was an assistant coach under head coach Nate Oates at the University of Buffalo, who was actually one of the NCAA tournament darlings this year when they upset number 4 Arizona, who we just recently found out had the number 1 draft pick in the NBA, DeAndre Ayton. So Jamie, in his first year as an assistant at Buffalo, was able to accomplish some pretty amazing things. Jamie shared some excellent wisdom this interview, and I'm really looking forward to being able to share it with you. So without further delay, here is Jamie Quarles. All right, Jamie, welcome to the Master Your Craft Study. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it. You had a pretty exciting season last year. Tell me about that run you guys went on. I'm very fond of those NCAA tournament wins for mid-majors. Tell me about your Buffalo team last year.
Man, it was exciting, man. Obviously, being my first year here at Buffalo, and having a chance to go, not only go to the NCAA tournament, but to pull off a major upset, and to be a part of that, and to walk out of that tunnel versus some of the best coaches and the best players in the country, it was big time, really big time.
Yeah. Had you ever, you're still a young coach, had you envisioned, coming up that you'd be in a scenario where you'd be facing a team like Arizona in the NCAA tournament, especially with NBA talent on the team? Was that something that shocked you when you were preparing for that game and preparing notes and scouting reports and whatnot? Or was it something that you kind of saw yourself doing for quite some time now?
It's always been when you think about your ultimate goals and you visualize things, as a young coach, I visualized myself competing for a national championship and looking down the other sideline versus some other really good coaches. We had an opportunity to play a really good schedule this year. And so earlier in the year, we had played Texas A&M. We had went to Syracuse to play Coach Boeheim and those guys. So, the NCAA tournament was a different level, but I was excited as we were preparing to scout several times. When names and numbers come up, like Ayton, and those names are coming up, and you're thinking, man, this kid has a chance to be the number 1 draft pick in this year's draft. And you kind of approach it like any other game, and we went into it thinking that we could win, and we had our guys believing that they could win, and they went out and performed, and it was exciting.
Yeah, I watched your team at Buffalo play twice this year when I was watching my little brother at Ohio U. And I remember thinking to myself that obviously you're talented, but there was something about the the on-court cohesion and accountability. It seemed like your guys were pretty tough, and when someone made a mistake, they held each other accountable. I could see it on the film. It looked pretty good. Tell me about the leadership on that team from the players. You're a coach, you perceive it, you try to instill different leadership qualities in your players. Tell me about a couple of the leaders on your team and how they impacted that run.
This team is really kind of led by committee. Obviously on a lot of teams, your best player, whether they're a vocal guy or not a vocal guy, has somewhat of a leadership role because the rest of the guys on the team look to him as he's one of our best players. We're fortunate we had a really, really talented roster, and so everyone kind of pitched in on the leadership side. It was guys that were vocal leaders. Is several guys that they lead by example. C.J. Massenberg is a great example. He'll have a chance to end up being the school's all-time leading scorer, but he's a guy that he doesn't say a lot, but he leads his team, and when he does say something, it's meaningful and guys follow. And Jeremy Harris is another example. He kind of leads just by showing up every day, doing the job, and he shows up and he does it the right way, and people see that and follow him, and that's his way of leading us. So there's a lot of different leading on this team. Our guards, Devontae Jordan and Dante Carruthers, they lead by the way that they play. Like they play so hard, they leave it all out there, and the guys on the team know that that's what we have to do. That we have to play as hard as those two guys. And so everyone kind of chips in and leads in their own way, and it was successful for us this year.
Players that are listening, take note here. This is a team that all of you that want to play college basketball someday, it's one thing to make it to that level. It's another thing to have success. And this Buffalo team has had tremendous success at what they're doing. And you can hear it in Jamie's conversation here, talking about how each person on the team can play a different leadership role and in many different ways. Sometimes it's via example. Sometimes it's via vocal. You don't have to do it in one certain or specific way or another. Jamie, tell me a little bit about the cohesion of your staff. You're an assistant, and Coach Oates has obviously done a great job early on here, and he's not that old for a head coach himself. But tell me about some of what you guys as a staff kind of hang your hat on and what has made you successful in that sense.
Really, we hang our hat on the same thing that we preach to our guys. We're blue collar mentality. We're going to show up every day. We're going to work hard. Everyone brings a little different something to the table, and man, it really, really worked this year. I was the new guy on staff this year, and before me was Lindsey Hunter, who was an NBA veteran for well over 10 years, and before that was Danielle Marshall. And so those were some tough shoes to follow. Those guys have 20 years of NBA experience between the two of them.
So they upgraded in playing talent. Did they make you do a physical tryout when you?
I can't play as good as those guys. So I was a little nervous about that. But the biggest compliment from this year, man, was and those guys were unbelievable in their roles here on staff at Buffalo. But the biggest compliment is that I really helped with the staff chemistry. And that made me feel good that that I could bring something, add something to the table, especially coming from the Division II level. A lot of people, oh, he's a Division II guy or he's a junior college guy. But between our staff, man, we have our head coach, Nate, was a high school coach 6 years ago. He was a high school coach. Coach Weissel's been a head coach our associate head coach on the Division I, II, and III level, played at Division II level. Brian, our second assistant, came from the junior college ranks. Obviously me, the high school, Division II, and the Division I level. So we're all very humble, hardworking, and enjoy the game of basketball and helping these young guys get to the next level.
Yeah, I want to highlight one of the words you said there, humble. You look at that staff; it's pretty high powered in its own right. And I think in my mind of even just some of the guys that I know, Coach Weitzel was the head coach at Loyola. To have guys like that used to be head coaches in Division I, all the way down to guys like yourself who rose through the ranks, wound up being an assistant at the Division II university there. Your head coach, Coach Nate Oates, was a high school coach. That level of diversity, but yet the humbleness to be able to come together and work together without ego becomes all that more valuable. What do guys tell themselves to keep a level of humbleness or lack of ego in your routine? How is it that you find that on a staff?
I think it has a lot to do with where we've all been. Nate in a position now where Buffalo basketball there's no professional basketball team in Buffalo. So other than the Bills, and not the Bruins, the Sabres,
Mhm.
people love Buffalo basketball here, and he's humbled by the fact that he has some really good Romulus high school teams, but this is another level, and the work ethic that he displayed there at Romulus, like that same work ethic hasn't changed now that he's at Buffalo, and now that he's been to the Division I tournament 3 out of 4 times. It hasn't changed, and everyone on the staff, it kind of trickles down. Coach Weissel had a lot of success everywhere that he's been, and he's still that same guy. He shows up, he watches a lot of film, he loves spending time with the guys, getting to know them, teaching them stuff about defense as well as life. And it trickles all the way down through our entire staff, all the way down to our strength coach, to our ops guy, everyone, it just trickled down. And I think it has a direct correlation on the product that you see on the floor, on the young men that come through our program.
Well, you set the tone. The coaches set the tone for the attitude that players should adapt. Not every team takes on the attitude the coach would like them to, but one thing is for certain, that if a coach doesn't embody those traits, the team definitely won't either. Jamie, talk about some of the coaches that you emulate or look up to. Maybe not guys that you know personally, but say an NBA coach or someone who you see the way that they perform or the way that they hold themselves that you aspire to.
I think it starts with my dad, man. And before I even knew I wanted to coaching on a collegiate level, I knew I wanted to help young men become better. And basketball became the vehicle for that. My dad's a high school coach and an athletic director for 30 years. And it kind of, once I knew that was the direction that I wanted to go, I wasn't a great player. Around like junior year in college, I knew I wanted to coach, and I knew I wanted to coach on the collegiate level. And I did some self-evaluation, man. I started to do a lot of research. I read everything Coach K's ever written, been a part of. I started working Duke camp. That was of all the camps I've worked until I couldn't work a camp anymore. I worked one session every year just as a fan, just to be around. We talked about what we kind of built here at Buffalo, what he's built at Duke, and obviously, that's the highest level, and everyone knows him.
Mm-hmm.
But when you walk around that campus, whether it's for their camp, for a game, no one's there, it shows like what he's instilled, the way that program is run, the people that are involved, the type of high character kids that they get. Not only the best players, but like really good people. He hires good people, and it shows. And I started to kind of study that. I had the opportunity to work for Coach Steve Smith at Oak Hill Academy, who's won over 1,000 games, and I started to kind of become a sponge, and I would take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and ultimately in hopes of shaping my own thoughts and how I want to run a team, run a program. And I had a chance to work for a guy named George Pitts that a lot of people may not know, that's in the Tennessee High School Hall of Fame. And Coach Pitts won 1,000 games in high school in the state of Tennessee, and has jumped over to college. And he's working at Keene College in Bristol, Tennessee. And he's going to win close to another 500 games there before it's all said and done. So I've had a chance to work for some unbelievable guys, man. And then not to even mention Dip, who I played for, Dip Metris at Augusta University, who's really, really highly respected and known throughout all levels. And I shaped from playing from him. By my junior year, I was taking our practice plans and keeping them. And guys in the locker room saying, "Why are you keeping those?" And they're going to be valuable one day. The notes that every day he would have a quote at the top of it. Like I just became a sponge, and I started stealing knowledge everywhere that I could, man. And I'm not there yet. I don't have it figured out, and I'm still trying to learn. And I think the guys that are the best at this thing, and not even just coaching it, whatever you're trying to do, are always learning. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to always learn.
Yeah, long time learning. Those are really good at to be a sponge and to be able to soak up that kind of knowledge or to understand that how important that is at a young age really sets you apart. what other advice would you give or could you offer to a young coach or to some players in college or high school that aspire to be a coach?
I read this a couple months ago, and I really tried to kind of live by it, man. Show up and do the job. And I've gotten a lot of no's, Jake, a whole lot. And I learned more from the no's, really, ultimately, than the few yeses that I've gotten, man. And it's really easy to get discouraged. And whether you're a player trying to get to the next level, whether you're trying to move up coaching ranks, get a first job, like it's really easy to get discouraged. And I truly, truly love what I do. It's a passion. I do it for free. I did it for practically free for a while, but I was happy.
Most coaches do. Most coaches do.
Most coaches do. Great point. I was really happy with what I got up and drove to an office to do every day. And I was completely fine with I believe this in my heart, if I show up and do the job every day and treat people the right way and do what I'm supposed to do and continue to get better, then the opportunity to move up is going to present itself. The opportunity to get to the level where I'm supposed to be making the most impact will present itself. And I truly, truly believe that, man. If I would have been in Augusta for the next 10 years or had to go down to high school level, I truly believe God is going to put me where I'm supposed to be to make the biggest impact. And that's what it's all about.
What was it for you that became the daily motivation or the specific situations where you could really push through or work through that adversity when things got really, really difficult for you?
I've really just stuck through it, man. Like I really believed in my heart that the opportunity to move up, for example, and I just use that as one, was going to come. I just knew that as I got older, my definition of success changed, drastically. As I graduated, I thought, I was going to get a graduate assistant spot and then maybe become a director of basketball operations somewhere. And by 35, I'll be the head coach. But that's not how it happens. That's not the plan. That's not God's plan. And that wasn't my route. And around 26 or 27, like I was really, really humbled by that. And I was completely fine with it. I was happy. A lot of times, man, I would find myself getting discouraged. Like, is an opportunity going to come where I can continue to advance, to spread my wings even more? And I truly believe that if I just kept doing this thing the right way, that opportunity would come. And, the no's were really, really disappointing. But what really pushed me to really believe that, man, the opportunity is going to come is the people around me. My support system, they believed in me. So when I got down on myself, and I'm a pretty introvert guy when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to. There's a lot of days where I sat around like, man, I was fortunate that I could stay at home when I was working in Augusta. And a lot of days, in my darkest days, I would get down and say, I have a master's degree, man. And I've been doing this for a while, and I'm sleeping in the same room I was sleeping in when I was in ninth grade. And I truly, those are like my darkest hours. Like, am I doing this the right way? Like, should I just, find another way to impact children and go and teach and, do this to make more money? And then, when I had a self-evaluation, I realized it's not about money. It's about being happy. It's about treating people the right way, building lasting relationships. And my support circle, man, which kind of the city of Augusta, kind of growing up in Augusta and just playing college there and working there was tremendous, man. So many people really want to see me do well. So it was on. I feel like I would let them down if I didn't work as hard as I could, if I didn't show up, do the job the right way, if I didn't treat people. And it paid off. And hopefully it continues to pay off because, I'm not going to change that. I can't settle. I can't get complacent. And hopefully it continues to have a positive impact.
Jamie Quarles putting Augusta on the map. Well, but honestly, I think that probably had a huge impact on your life, and you just alluded to it already. The support system that you have with your family there, those times as a beginning or as a young head coach can be really taxing. The time commitment, the questioning, the uncertainty on your career, things like that. So for you, family was probably played a big role, and I would assume that you'd call your dad a mentor. And I want to talk about the importance of mentors. And if it's not your dad, you want to talk about someone else as well, please do. Speak to what a player or a coach could do to help their situation by seeking those people out. How does that really help you? And what sort of people should you look to have in your inner circle?
It definitely helps big time, man. My dad is very instrumental in my life, and he definitely was a mentor. And he doesn't have uh, as much he, knowledge on the college level, the collegiate level, on that aspect of kind of how the job works, and you know how different it is on a collegiate level. But just the kids are kids, and on that kind of stuff, how you treat them, approaching the job the right way. Like I can always call my dad up. I can always, he instilled that stuff for me early, and riding the bus with the team as a kid, seeing how he treated those guys, seeing how they responded to him, and to this day, when I'm home in Augusta a few months ago, boom, a random knock on the door, and it's a kid that played football for him. Hey, coach, I'm in the neighborhood, just thinking about you, stop by. And so I saw that stuff, and it made me realize, how important having people like that in your circle are. I have a couple of friends that are just uh, they're not involved in collegiate athletics at all, and they're completely non-biased. They're gonna tell me, how it is. They're gonna put me in my place if I need to be there. They're gonna be someone that's not even in this athletic world at all that's going to give non-biased advice, and they're going to be completely honest. I think that is important because so many people get caught up in, oh, I got to win these games, and you drive yourself crazy and you forget to live. Don't let this job kill you, because it's bigger and it's more important than that. And when you really cut through it all, Jake, 98% of the world doesn't care how many basketball games you win as a coach. They could care less. And that really stuck with me when I was given that word of advice, because it's bigger than that. It's more than that. Dip Meecius would also be like a big time mentor for me, because coming in as a player and spending so much time with him, and then once I realized, this is what I want to do, he called me in his office one day and he said, I'm going to give you two pieces of advice. This is a really tough business to get into and an even tougher business to advance in. And I'm like, oh, coach, I'm going to be a GA. I'm a blah, blah, blah. And he was right. And then a third piece of advice that he gave me 2 years ago was, it's really, really hard to get an opportunity to be a head coach. And that's ultimately what I want to do one day. And, now that I don't work for him, it's funny. We probably talk longer and more on the phone now. And he's kind of just always been there if I have any questions, if I want to run something by him or need advice about something. And that's so important to have, man. And the one thing I vowed that I would pay it forward. And so, man, I meet people all the time, or I get emails and, hey, man, read your story, or, we met so-and-so and so-and-so, tell me a little bit about your path, or I want to do this. And, I'm so happy. Oh, here's my number. Call me anytime. This is what you should start doing. These are some great people to get in touch with. You should work this camp. You should read this book. And people did it to me. So it's only right. Like, it's only right that I pay it forward. And I love that part of it. I truly love that part of it, because people have done it for me for years and years. They've given me knowledge. They've given me advice, opportunities. So if I have any time that I can do that for someone else, like, I'm all for it.
People that are willing to mentor others, and I have a couple people that I mentor personally, and there's an aspect of this master your craft thing that I really want to turn into a legitimately systematic approach to mentorship, because I think there's a lot of people out there that'd be willing to take a younger kid, or even a colleague or peer under their wing, or to at least have conversations with them, but it's hard for people to connect on that front. Find a mentor now. Find someone in that field that you're fond of. If you want to be a teacher or you want to be a coach, send an email, reach out, and don't be afraid to ask, because those relationships that you build are so impactful on your life and on your development as a person. And you can hear Jamie talking about it here. And I think that most people in any position of success would agree that that's something that contributed largely to what they were able to accomplish.
You can't be afraid of the no's too, because like I'm sure you've experienced it too. Like, I've reached out to people that I've admired and done research on, and we all are busy and we all have this or that going on. And so, I was realistic about it, but sometimes, guys may not just be in a position to help, or they may be overloaded. And so you can't get discouraged by that. And I found myself early, man, I really like this guy. Like, I would love to learn,
Mm-hmm.
how he does the things that he do. And it just didn't work out. And, I would get discouraged, and I would find myself seeing him on the road and like, man, he wouldn't help me. But, everyone has a lot of stuff going on, and it just takes one person.
Yeah.
So,
Successful people are always busy too. And it's
very
one, but it's one of those things where sometimes it happens naturally. Like sometimes you wind up being in a position where your network or your mentors that you have kind of happen into your life. But the one common denominator in those scenarios is that you're open to it and seeking it. And getting told no is just something you got to deal with. Successful people are busy, but if you don't ask, or if you're not open to those opportunities as they come up, it definitely won't happen. So you've got to at least understand that that's something that you're seeking. And I think that kind of holds true in any profession, and not necessarily just as a player or a coach in the game of basketball, but in any sport, in any profession, any career. That's always going to be the case. If you're a career-long learner, you need to be open to finding different people or mentors to learn from.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit here, Jamie. You're giving some wonderful answers. A lot of people can learn a lot from some of the stuff you're saying here right now. Let's talk about players. Who are some of the best players you've ever coached?
Some of the best players I've ever coached. The first really good player that I had a chance to coach was a kid named RJ Currington. And when I was at Oak Hill, I was the head coach of the Red team, which is the second varsity team there. And the kid was 14 at the time. So I'm a first-year head coach. 8 months earlier, I'm playing in the Division II national tournament. And boom, now I'm the coach. And he was like the first really good player. And, I was excited. I had all these plans for when I started to run my team. And it was humbling, just teaching. And he was very receptive. And so from there, man, that he really, we keep in touch to this day, but he really kind of set the path for working with good players, and having the confidence in myself that those guys will listen, especially knowing that those guys are way better players than I ever was, ever thought about them. But knowing that those guys would trust that, what I'm teaching or trying to instill, it really helped me working with that young man. When I was at Oak Hill, Tiny Allen was there, Deron Lamb from Kentucky, Lamont Jones. There was some really good players. So I got used very quickly to being around some good players. Went to King College, a guy named Mark Dockery, one of King's all-time leading scorers. I had a chance to coach him for a year, and unbelievable kid. That's one of the things I would say. A lot of the best players I've coached have also been some of the best people that I've coached. And I truly think that, that's the reason why.
What makes them good people?
They treat people the right way. They're humble, and they approach it. They know that they're blessed and they have an incredible gift. And I've been fortunate to be around some guys that not only can really put the ball in the basket at a high rate, but they're the first ones to help clean up the bus, or to help carry stuff, or to pick up a guy on the team when he's down. Those kind of guys, or that'll stay late because a fan wants to hang around and get their autograph or take a picture, whether they lost, whether they shot 2 for 9 from the field that night or scored 40 points that night. And I've seen that, and I feel like it's a direct correlation often between really good players being really good people.
Interesting.
The best player that I've had an opportunity, I spent 5 years with this guy, Keyshawn Sherrill.
Mm-hmm.
And Keyshawn had one other offer coming out of high school. And it was another Division II school, and we had a chance to get Keyshawn to Augusta. His high school coach and my boss at the time, Dip, were really good friends. And he came in with a chip on his shoulder, and he's probably one of the best people that I know. And he's a prime example, whether he was 10 for 15 from the field or he was 1 for 15 from the field. After the game, he was going to be that same guy. He wasn't going to treat people the wrong way. He was going to show up, do the job, and he did the job at a really high level. I got to Buffalo this year and had a chance, man. We had 3 guys averaging 15 or more points a game. And I left Keyshawn as the all-time conference leading scorer for the Peach Belt Division II. And I got here and had the opportunity to work with a guy, Wes Clark, and I was just blessed to have some unbelievable point guards that I've had a chance to work with, and he was another one, man. He was dynamite on the floor. The way he talked to people, the way he talked to his teammates, they respect him, and I truly believe that the some of your best players are often some of your best people. And I've been fortunate to be around a lot of high character guys like that, and it's helped me as a coach, and I feel like that I've shared something with them to help make them even better people in life, something beyond the scoring more points or getting more assists.
With that in mind, and with some of the attributes of some of these great players that you've got to coach, what kind of advice would you give to a high school player that might not have all of those traits and skills yet, but knows that they want to improve? Give some advice to a ninth grader right now who said, I want to be the best. What would you tell them based on your experience with some of these really great players?
Um, one thing I would definitely say is if you're that passionate about basketball per se, um, I think those guys really the best that I've been around. They're as passionate about how they treat their family. They're as passionate about their academics, and they're passionate about working on their craft. And I think that so many guys, even some of the best guys, everyone has weaknesses. They say that, man, I wish 5 years ago I would have started working on my left hand more. Or so now in ninth grade, 10th grade is start to approach it like the level of success that you want to get out of it. And I think that that's really, really important. Whether you're trying to be a player, whether you're trying to be a coach, if you want to work to get better at it, I truly believe that you have to approach it and put that work in to see that level of success. And a lot of people miss that. They do, and it's too late. And now they start to BCD is what we call it on our team: blame, complain, and defend. And they're blaming their high school coaches for not getting them seen much, or defending the fact that, oh, my shot isn't very good because I didn't have this resource, and it's bad, and it's leading to a society where we're not taking responsibility for our actions or where we're at. And ninth grade is a perfect time. Eighth grade, you have an opportunity to choose your path and choose your greatness.
That seems to be the sentiment of a lot of different scenarios in our world where everyone's playing the blame game, and it's really difficult to, you can look at your team, and if your team's not having success, if you're the sort of person that wants to point a finger and blame everybody else, you've got to stop and remember that the best thing you can do for any group scenario, whether it be your family, whether it be your team, whether it be your workplace, is to clean your own room first.
Definitely.
Make
Right.
sure that what you're contributing is going to be or have a positive influence on the people around you. And then, and only then, once you've accomplished that, or once you're doing a phenomenal job at that, to be more vocal or try to change somebody else. But where do, besides that, where else do high school players get it wrong?
Another big thing is, man, kids just don't know. They don't. And then this isn't is to make an excuse or anything for them, but there's so many kids out there that are completely oblivious to the recruiting process, the standards of what it takes to be eligible to compete on any NCAA level. Uh, we get these emails all the time. So a lot of kids are fortunate to have mentors, coaches, uncles, fathers, someone in their life that has, some knowledge of it. But there are a lot of kids, man, that are all area type kids that get through their year, their first team all area. Now prom, now graduation is approaching, and they've never taken the SAT or ACT, or they didn't know that they needed this number of core classes. And that's not, I'm not placing blame on anyone, but that's
Yeah.
sad. That's really sad. And I think that's a major problem. So everyone thinks that the answer is, oh, I just need to get on the AAU team and travel and be seen. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more.
It's very eye-opening, and you can see that. So for anyone listening who's an administrator, a counselor, a coach of any sort, don't be exhausted by the educational process, because we are, as coaches, sometimes quick to blame the players But the only players to blame are the ones that know better, that don't listen. There's a lot of players that need the education on how some of this works, or need to be brought back to real life and kind of told the truth about how these things work, that just don't know. And so you need to maintain energy on that. We've always got to be, anyone in a position of influence has to be a good educator.
Definitely.
Okay, we've only got a couple questions left here, Jamie. One of the main proponents of this master your craft study is I really want to try to connect the dots between athletics and the rest of the world. So, because I do think there's a lot of athletes out there that, after going through a high school career, or if they're fortunate enough after going through high school and college and even a professional career, that get done, that kind of think, well, I don't have a trade, I don't have a skill set. How can I, they struggle to find a job. Not everyone can get done being a basketball player and become a trainer or a coach. It's just not going to happen. However, there's a tremendously large set of skills that an athlete has that they can contribute to the rest of society. What are some of the skills you learn from the game that can be applied to business?
Work ethic would be a big one. The time thinking about, and like I said, I wasn't a great player. I was pretty good, but the work ethic and the discipline that I learned from going to the gym to work on my craft, because I knew that I wanted to have a certain level of success as a basketball player, transcends right away into real world. So I'm a coach right now, but whatever, if I was a teacher, whatever I was doing, if and the way kids are changing. So if I was an educator right now, just in the classroom, I would still need to work to get better. I would still need to have that discipline to every year make sure that I'm getting better, that I'm going to the next level. But I tell people all the time. People say, "Man, you love basketball." Like, I associate basketball with Jamie, but it's so much that basketball is giving me. It's affording me a chance to see a lot of things and places that I never would have imagined that I'd get a chance to see. Man, it's still work ethic, being on time, treating people the right way, knowing how to work in a group. As being a part of a team. Like, that stuff is I'm going to use for the rest of my life. If I stop playing basketball, coaching basketball tomorrow, and went and worked on Wall Street, like, I'm going to have to be on time. I'm going to have to treat people the right way. At some point, I'm going to have to work with a group of people. I'm going to have to continue to evolve and get better if I want to stay on Wall Street and become good at being on Wall Street, and not just settle for being there in mediocrity.
Yeah,
And
the game is so competitive that I think at a younger age than usual, a lot of athletes learn a level of accountability on those things, on those traits that you just said. That's really good, Jamie. I think that those are wonderful things. I'm hoping that some of the players and coaches listening are taking some notes, because some of this is really valuable. We have 2 more questions left here, and the next one is one that everyone has to comment on that comes on the show before our final thought here. And I'm going to give you a word, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can define it. You can tell me a story about it. Any direction you want to take it. And that word is grit.
Grit. That's a good word. I'm not big on talking about myself, but like, if I was ever put in a situation and someone said, describe yourself in a couple words or one sentence, some form of the word or some synonym of the word grit would be in there. And I feel like the grit that I have has really helped, like, make me the person that I am. Like I said, all those no's, being in situations and where I'm thinking, man, does it get better than this? Like, I love what I do. I love this game, but is there more? Can I continue to evolve? And you have to just have grit and drive to just keep going. And I feel like I've been able to nurture that and keep it growing, and now it's something in me that won't stop. And I see enough looking around that if you stop, like, I have no desire at all to fit in or be average. Like I don't, like, I wasn't put on this earth. Like, I want to try to keep pushing. I want to try to push the envelope, push the new levels, and you have to have a certain level of grit for that. And I try to feed it off to other people. I try to take it from other people when I see their level of grit and how they approach things and how they approach life. And we only get to do this thing one time. So, I want to go as hard as I can at it and put as much into it, so that if you do it one time and do it right, one's enough.
One's enough.
We only get one, so it's gonna have to be enough.
All right, last question. Everyone on the show has to answer this as well. And it can be directed at athletes and coaches or to the entire nation in general, if you want it to be. You got to give a waking thought. So you get to send a message to every single person. First 10 seconds they hear when they wake up, what would you tell everybody?
Go out and make the day your best day. Sounds kind of cliche, but if you want to do the things that you see, in your dreams and your thoughts, you have to approach every day that way. And I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it, evolving. And every day, there's some up, there's some down days. Some days I don't feel like getting up, some days, but you have to do it that way. And if you do it that way and you keep pounding that stone and doing it that way as often as you can and make it a habit, like, you can do anything in this world you want to do. Like, I truly believe that. Not enough people believe that. So I think that's why, a lot of people kind of stop, where they don't get to ultimately what they want to do. But I truly, truly in my heart believe that if you approach it that way, that you can do absolutely whatever you want to do in this world.
That's awesome, Jamie. Well, that's it for this one, man. We could go on and on. I've had so much good wisdom for the people listening. Where can people that would like to follow Buffalo or some of your career, where can they find you on your social media accounts and whatnot?
My social media accounts, my Twitter is @UBCoachJ. You can follow me on Twitter. It's linked right to our athletic Twitter page, our men's basketball Twitter page, on Facebook, Jamie Quarles. Every morning I'm always posting quotes and stuff, and there's always just stuff that I find in reading that, like, I want to share with other people. And I enjoy strolling on there for a few minutes every morning, just like getting knowledge from guys like you, Jake, and others of stuff that I can pass along. And I think that's important, and it helps us grow and continue to be lifelong learners. So
absolutely,
enjoy it.
Cool, man. Well, that's awesome. Guys that are listening, gals that are listening, make sure you check out Buffalo this upcoming season. They had a tremendous year last year, going to look to improve on it. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Master Your Craft Study. If you want to get a little bit more or check out some of the episodes that you missed, head on over to the MYCstudy.com for links to the podcast, links to the blog posts, all that jazz. If you have someone that you think would be good for the show, go ahead, hit us up, let us know. And in the meantime, thank you also to those of you that have been sharing our blog posts and spreading the word about our podcast. This is something that I think can be truly impactful for a lot of different players and coaches. And the more that we can spread the word, the more that we can try to beat the algorithm and get the Master Your Craft Study on the top Google searches rather than videos of cats and Donald Trump. I would much prefer to be putting out some information that can make people a little bit less crazy and a little bit more committed to their craft. So thank you so much for listening. If there's any questions that you have, make sure you hit me up in my private accounts or any of the MYC socials, which are at the MYC Study. I look forward to holding another episode here soon. Take care, guys.